Hi. It's been forever since I've seen you. What is going on, Rachel Rosen? Jazz
Just Jack. No, isn't it?
It is just Jack.
Just Jack.
Just Jack,
Just
2020.
Rachel.
Just Jack, 2020.
I love that we just all, right off the bat are so fierce and fiery.
We're like lights on, house is on.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, plus I'm drinking my coffee, so
oh my God, well, you're one step ahead of me.
Oh, and you got an orange glass this time.
I have an orange glass. I like to play with complementary colors. Apparently. Yes.
Well, I'm trying something out a little bit different today. So I'm actually, as you can see, not that I want you to stare at my chest, but I have a Rode Wireless Go.
Oh, fantastic!
I'm plugging Rode now. Rode Wireless Go microphone, because as people have probably heard the past few episodes, me complaining about wearing headphones or headsets. So we're going to try it this way. And as long as you can hear me, that's perfect, right?
Your voice sounds actually so much better. Rode, what are you doing? I've heard great things about your Rode. So, I mean, if you want to sponsor either of us for your incredible audio recording products, feel welcome to hit us up at Getting Juicy.
Rode does have incredible... No, I'm not actually just trying to plug them for any sponsorship, but they do have amazing audio. So anyway, I've got my little setup here. So, yeah. So, and I've got my computer on my 3D penis book and my 3D book of breaths book again.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I've got it on my scratch. I've got my laptop on my scratch kitchen tabletop. It looks super rustic.
Amazing.
Agazing.
Love it.
Yes.
So, yeah, really love it. So how are you, Hiiro? Because I was going to say we haven't spoken since, I'm wearing an imaginary watch, since 2 minutes ago. No.
Yes, exactly. I know. Where does the time go?
Where does it fly?
Where does it fly both in digital and analog world? I don't know. But since we've checked in the last 2 minutes, I am doing just fine. I've rolled out of bed. I'm breathing. My eyes are open. My hair actually looks somewhat decent.
Yeah, your hair looks really cute.
My scruffy beard could use a good trim, but I am okay. Oh, stop. You're so sweet. I'm going to sip out of my beautiful orange glass of had for 10 years. Okay.
I love it. Yes, I mean, that's true, but we don't live in the same city. So we're still, keeping track of each other and seeing what each other is up to constantly and just making sure we're okay.
Well, we are. And that's one thing that inspired us to actually do this podcast, is that Rachel and I have constantly had these open dialogues for the last 5 years since ever I thought she was having a hot flash. And since that all happened, and my breasts started getting more and more rosen, it just felt like we wanted to continue. Lord. We just wanted to continue these discussions, both on a comical level, but also on a serious note, which I think is really cool, because I think you have those friendships or relationships with people that sometimes you need to keep in touch with them more often or less often, or the tone of your conversations can be one note or the same tone every day. Whereas with Rachel and I, we've always had an ebb and a flow and almost a seamlessness with our conversations from minute to minute or hour to hour.
Yeah. So hopefully others can. Yeah, we also like to talk over each other, by the way.
We do. Yeah. We're just so passionate,
That's what we do have in common too. We're both we get very easily excitable about things, and then it's not that we want to be rude to each other. I think we just get excited and we want to comment. And yeah, that's just what happens. But something that just happened prior to jumping on this call, because we're thinking about, what not just what can we chat about, but what's kind of the hot topic right now in each other's lives. And for me, and I'm not scared to admit this, that I'm almost 38. Oh my God, I almost said I was 38. I'm 37, guys. I'm 38 soon, but not quite yet. But
yeah, don't add on your own age.
Oh Lord, why did I just do that? You know why?
I don't know why.
I'm thinking about that looming number on the way to 40. Whoa, and that's just weird to hear myself say that.
I know. I'm so like.
Oh, shut up! You're like, that looming 30. Oh.
Well, you know what? In contrast, though, I only know what I know. So for me to think like, oh my God, like I'm actually
Of
legitimately in
course.
my late 20s, I'm
Of
thinking,
course.
how is this actually
I
happening?
remember I remember those days. But my point being, as a woman who is in a heterosexual relationship and don't have children. So this is the topic of conversation, guys. We're gonna get deep and juicy about kids.
Well,
Believe it or not. Okay, that was really bad.
kids.
About children. Yeah, I know Hero's like, oh God, roll the eyes. And the reason why I bring this up is because, like I was saying, the age looming, getting closer to 40, and my husband and I had a conversation this morning because we've always kind of been in the middle, honestly, both of us, which is great. They're both on the same page, but we go from one day thinking of, oh my God, like, and this is not, it's kind of like a selfish thing. Oh my God, our kids would look so cute because, you know, not that we're narcissistic about ourselves because we're so cute. No, but you know,
But
you
you
have
both are.
no, you have an idea of what your children might look like and how exciting that would be, like almost like a clone, like a mini me. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people think that way, like, oh, what would our children look like? And that's why you have those apps, I think now too, where you can see what you look like as a kid, what your kids would look like
Right.
when they fuse, I guess, or somehow with the app, they take your partner and you together and they make like an avatar of like what your child would look like.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but that's not a reason to have children, obviously.
An app is not a reason to have
No,
children. Listen to that disclaimer right there. That is the message of today.
oh wow, an app is not a reason to have children. Oh my
An
goodness.
app is not a reason to have children.
See, and I gotta gather my thoughts here now. So, in any case, this morning, what we do is we think those roots, and then we think, yeah, but you know what? We kind of now, as we're getting a bit older, we're kind of set in our ways, so to speak. Yes, I know we're not old, but we're getting to that age where, since because we haven't had kids yet, it's almost easier and easier to push it off
Right.
because, well, I like getting up and just being able to do whatever the heck I want to do, or I like being able to go for a paddle. Like I stand up paddle constantly. That's my way of keeping sane.
That's
And
why
I
you have
like to be
such a
able to
strong
just,
core.
sure, it's the yoga too, I guess. But anyway, and so, you know, you like to do those kinds of things. But, you know, he said to me this morning, he's like, yeah, so his good friend actually is thinking of moving here to Vernon. I've already said kind of where I live, not naming names though, but he's moving here and he's the same age, and him and his wife do want kids. And they had a conversation last night talking about, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool if, you know, both the wives got pregnant at the same time?
Mm,
And then he relayed that to me this morning, and I said, yeah, you know, those, it would be cool, but I still, you know, you get excited about that way of thinking, and then I flip to the state of the fucking world right now. Like, I don't know if I want to raise children in the state of the world and where the world is going. I'm, you know, it's kind of hard to stay positive these days.
yeah.
So I think, and the reason why I want to bring the topic of children up is because I feel like there's a lot of people out there right now that either have kids, right, and are having a really tough time,
Right.
either homeschooling them because they have to and they have no choice, depending on where you live in the world with the pandemic. Or, you know, they're sending the kids to school and they're afraid of them bringing the virus home, or like there's just so much going on.
Hmm.
Plus, you know, the wildfires and the Black Lives Matter, and it is just a lot, right?
It is. There's a lot
So
of chaos.
it's very confusing now at the age I am whether or not I want to have children. So that is the topic of discussion, I think, today. And I know Hiro has his own thoughts on kids. Both of us, and like I said, great, my husband and I are on the same page, because if we weren't, that would be a whole different story. But we're both on the same page, as we're like right down the middle. One day we do, and one day we don't.
Right.
So yeah, what are
Well,
your thoughts on this? And I don't want to ostracize anyone out there as well that has
mhm,
kids, or that's planning on having kids and they really want kids and they can't get
mhm,
pregnant. Like, that's a whole other story. That's
mhm.
not really what I'm talking about. So I don't want to, you know, hurt anyone's feelings out there, but
No, to clarify, what we're talking about today is the concept and our lived experiences of children that are either newly born, within the last 3 to 5 years, or children that are on their way to being born, whether if it's during so-called in the last 6 months or even before any of this happened, and then the mother and the father of that child are in a situation where that's the destiny that their child is going to be birthed into. So it's that kind of interesting contrast of many things that don't really have a right or a wrong. It's more just an open discussion about two different
100%.
perspectives. One from me as again, and I don't say it as a label, but it's a fact, as a cisgendered gay white male that honestly is not a kid person, and that doesn't, like, I find I'm very childlike, and I do have a child spirit in me, but I'm not afraid to say that I'm not afraid to say that I hate kids. I don't see that as a disrespectful comment. I'm not a kid person.
No, you're not, you're right. And you're not like, you're not, singling out, so-and-so's kid. I hate that child.
No, it's an it's an energetic frequency.
Yeah.
What's interesting,
100%.
and we can talk about this later because it makes more sense to talk about it at the end of the podcast, but I actually find that a lot of kids and babies or puppies or animals love me. They love my energy. So we can leave that as a little cliffhanger at the end of this discussion. But in general, my general summary before we kick off these different ideas of children is that I have some close friends of mine that shall not be named for their own respect that do have kids. Some of those kids range from about the age of 2 and all the way up to the age of 5 or 6. And also I have a couple individuals within my own family who have younger children, one that's an infant, about 1 year old, and also a couple cousins of mine who are in the current generation of growing up as children or as preteens. So though I don't necessarily have a lot of interaction with those kids on a daily basis, I still have some reference of what some of the things that they've gone through because of my friends filling me in.
Right.
I've also, one of my best friends I have a great connection with, and I've been a part of their daughter's life for about a year now, and as their gunkle, and that's one of my favorite terms.
I love that term.
Because it's just like, and for those that are really green to any kind of compound word or like urban, gunkle is just gay and uncle put together. Okay. Yeah. So being a gunkle is the best thing because I get all the fun and all the privileges without any of the responsibilities. And I mean, what gay man doesn't want that? I mean, part of the joy for some of us, I can't stereotype all gay men, but for me is that I get all the responsibilities to someone else, but I get to have the privileges to appreciate the bonding and the connection to whatever it is I desire in the sense of a child and animals are exempt from that, but still it's the same thing. If you have a friend that has a puppy and my neighbors have an incredible almost a 1-year-old Scottish Terrier named Bernie, and I love him, and we swear that he's gay because he only like lights up around men. Like whenever he sees me, he rolls onto his back and all of a sudden just like shows me his belly.
Does his lipstick come out?
His lipstick comes out full blown, even though his Red Rocket has been neutered.
Red Rocket.
Yes.
I haven't heard that one.
Yes, thank you, South Park. And
oh gosh, of course. And,
yeah, Red Rocket. But no, but that's my point though, is that I get all the privileges of being around that therapeutic energy, but then at the end of the day, I'm not picking up after them in any way, shape, or form. I'm not having to deal with any like losing hours of sleep every day, not having to deal with trying to figure out what they want because they're not able to communicate in full sentences with me yet. I mean, and that's why I want to turn it back to yourself as well, is because you and I have talked about this as friends for quite a few years about families and kids. And I know that your sister has a newborn as well. So well,
he's not so newborn anymore. He's 15, 16 months old now. So he's almost a year and a half, but
still in that age though, where it's like, it's still a baby,
Yes. Like and what you just said about, being able to be so close to either family's children or friends' children, and then being the gunkle or being the auntie and then giving them back. And that's like, and I think that's what grandparents tend to say after they're like, oh, this is great. I mean, now with my kids, of course, I had to be there 24/7, but now with my grandkids, I can love them and I can give them back. So, so I mean, that I can relate to that completely.
Yeah.
I think that still, interestingly enough, even in the year 2020, we still have, or I still have, this societal pressure as a woman who's in a heterosexual relationship to have children. Like that's the next step. And it's funny because you'd think that would go away. And it's not like I have family members that are pressuring me. My husband's not even pressuring me, but there's some, maybe it's a like a guttural, maybe it's a genetic thing. I don't even know. Cause I'm not sure what it is, but there's almost like a guilt. There's a little bit of a guilt that is, comes with that, almost me thinking, well, if I don't have kids, then am I really a woman, or if I don't have children, is that wrong?
Right.
It's strange. Like I do think those things, and also, I mean, you think of, are you going to have regrets? And that's a big thing as well. Right. But why I wanted to say societal pressures, because I wanted to ask you, as a gay man, do you feel like, because now, and I was going to think about something else about 2020, because
it'll come back to you.
Yeah. I know what I was going to say as well. But as a gay man, do you feel in at all pressure to have a child because it's your right that you can, like that, does that make sense?
It does make sense, for sure.
Like, do you feel that at all? Just because, I mean, I know it's different for you, but in a sense, now that, it's definitely, politically, like, it's okay.
Right. Yeah. There's no sense of disadvantage or discrimination or
no, and not. I mean, at least
human right.
Right. And honestly, though, guys, like, I don't know where you're listening from, but we're lucky because we're in Canada. So
we're very lucky.
It might not be the same. I realize this probably is not the same for everyone.
It's true.
But Hiiro, for you specifically, I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah. And before I get into that answer, I do want to add on that is that we are very lucky to be in Canada, but we're also very lucky to be in the West Coast, in a very safe and very liberal and progressive.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, I mean, and again, in certain parts of the States as well, you could argue it's very similar, and therefore it may be as well. But I also want to keep in mind that anything that Rachel and I do speak of, we are speaking as non-judgmentally as possible, and also from our own perspective. So if you're coming from a culture or a perspective perhaps that is not in that boat, please respect the fact that we're not saying anything about your background or your culture, but we also don't know your culture or your background. So we are only speaking from our own experience. So please have that compassion just in case, right? Might as well give that little disclaimer, right? So to answer your question, I think you might be surprised initially by my answer. I do feel pressure to have kids. I was talking about it. I was on a date with someone the other day, and we were talking about children. And I thought that they didn't want to have kids because I thought that they had enough of that model in their life through other individuals that gave them that same satisfaction or that same feeling. Yeah. And he said to me that he actually does want to have his own kids, whether if it's adoption or surrogate or anything, but wants to have his own kids from infant stage, ideally. And that kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit, because this is not the first time that I have gotten to know, whether if it's like a first date or a few weeks, and then somehow that conversation doesn't come up right away and I kind of forget about it. And then that becomes something that kind of makes it a conflict for me. So without getting too much into this side of the discussion, because I want to talk about it in a future episode, I've kind of hinted a little bit that I did have an older brother that passed from cancer way back 15 years ago. And so because I was affected by that at an age where I was in such development from puberty to to young adulthood and so forth. I argue the fact that I think that might be one reason why my psychological outlook on having children may be stunted or less developed because of my own relationship with my brother being the way it was, and the way that I had to grow up after losing that relationship and not having other biological siblings or honestly cousins that I felt close enough to that I felt that I had that sense of belonging in a family outside of my own parents.
Right.
And the responsibilities that would come up with it, and also the stuff that I've had to go through with my own mental and cognitive and dialectical development in my health. I'd be fine if my kid had that. I would know how to deal with it because I have lived with it every day. However, I don't know if I would be strong enough as a human being or selfless enough, and I'm not afraid to admit that, to give my life to a child, regardless if it's my own blood or not. The second part to that, though, before you speak,
you touched something in me with the mental health stuff. Yeah, continue, please.
I am the only remaining individual in my bloodline.
Sorry, I went like this because I felt a bug on me.
That's fine.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean,
way.
no, that was not, I was not trying. I heard exactly what you said. Yes. And we just talked about that recently, actually, as well.
Yeah. So I'm the only,
and that's the person. Jewishness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm the only person in my generation, in my bloodline, that is remaining.
Yes.
So part of me feels that if I were to not bring a bloodline of someone into my life that's my own blood and DNA, I'm basically shutting the door on my legacy of my family, because one, my brother is no longer alive, and regardless of whatever sexuality he may have identified with, it really actually doesn't matter. But whether if he would have had his own children or not, I don't even know. I mean, he was 15. There's no way as a 15-year-old, for most men, maybe women it's different, but for men, you're not
for me. I don't know. I never, that's another conversation, but I never fantasized about having children.
But my point is with that comment, though, is that I have some friends that I know that have always wanted to be right. So I've never had that kind of pull. But I think the trauma of having that, because some people could argue, okay, you've lost a sibling. However, it might encourage you to want to have kids and multiple kids, so that way your child, if something did happen, they would at least have another sibling to lean on, right?
Yes.
It could have a reverse effect, which I know has happened to a couple people in my life on a personal note, where they wanted to not correct, but they wanted to change the narrative of what they went through, and therefore they went the opposite direction. But that's never been my situation. And I think the biological standard and pressure of being a gay male and living in a family that's been very non-pressuring and never even mentioning me having kids at all, I think for me, I never felt like, why take that responsibility on myself out of obligation, unless if I really felt that was part of my path, and it's never been part of my path. So whenever I've dated people and they've said, yeah, I could see myself having kids, I'm like, okay, I actually really respect that, and I'm very inspired by that, but I don't think I'm going to be the right partner for you, because I honestly have been through enough shit in my life. I don't want to be going through more experiences like that when I'm just trying to get my life back from having it not taken away from me, but definitely shortchanged. And I don't want to sacrifice all that. Like, I don't even have a dog. I hate plants and flowers. I hate fish. Like, I don't know that. Yeah, like, I don't want anything to be responsible or accountable unless if it's my own job or my own friendships or a partner that can be accountable for themselves.
I see.
So it's a deep-rooted psychological pattern and way of living, in my sense, that I don't mind being committed to myself, because in the end of the day, I know I'm leaving the society alone. Yeah. But to be accountable for other things and to feel like I'm working nonstop for that, and then all of a sudden I look back at my biological clock and I'm like, what did I do with my life? Whereas other people will be like, no, this is what I did with my life. I'm proud of that. Like, that's what my life is about. For me, I see myself showing up in the world and society, not necessarily because I might have been a parent or because I might have been a parental figure. but I see myself being a role model and being a figure and being a leader and being a change and a voice. And that doesn't necessarily, for me, have the role of being a parent attached to that.
Right.
And I think that's a very important distinguishment for those that might be in a similar boat, that might be struggling with the idea of what happens, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's enough. Like, why can't that be enough? Like, that is, you know, that's beautiful. Just because you don't have an offspring that you are, you know, being an influence to and raising and being, you know, part of society. Well, why can't we do that to the public, or to, you know, why can't that be like our child? Right.
Well, yeah.
And to me, that's, I mean, and this is, I shouldn't, okay, I would just say this, but to me, that's almost more important in a way, you know, to be a part of the community, bring the community together, you know, or you could do both, of course. But, and I wonder, you know, do you feel like the reason why it's hard for you, and I feel like I'm interviewing you.
No, it's fine.
This is great. We go back and forth like this. But do you feel like the reason maybe why it's hard to take care of things like living, like a plant or fish or whatever, those kinds of things, because you're afraid, maybe there's a fear of them leaving or being or passing on, or you don't want that, kind of like what happened with your brother? Like, is that,
if it's there, it's so deeply rooted that it might not ever surface as a conscious thought, because what the easiest answer I have is like, no, I just don't give a shit. I just don't give a shit, and I don't want the responsibility, and it doesn't have, and I don't have meaning behind it. So for me, I'd rather have a swarm of like crystals in my apartment that I have tons of, by the way, that I can throw in the sunlight or in the moonlight, and that I can cleanse, and that way I know that they're living rocks, but I don't have to be concerned about it. Like, oh, you got to water me every other day. You got to put me in the fucking sunlight. Like, what? Like, sing to me, vibrate to me. And, you know, that's not a disrespect, but like, I'm going to say my honest opinion, and that's my honest opinion. You know, like I, when someone says to me, oh, I brought you flowers, or again, if I'm going on a date with someone and
I'll never bring you flowers now.
No, God, no. They might have COVID on them. Ugh. But like, I'll say to them, like, if you want to do something nice for me, you want to show a sense of sentiment or affection, I'll say, never buy me flowers, because they have no meaning to me. It doesn't matter if they have meaning to you. They don't have meaning to me. But if you want to provide me something, like buy me my coffee when we go for a Starbucks, you know, matcha tea lemonade, 30-ounce Trenta.
There's the plug of the Starbucks again.
Always. I'm a seller. I'm a business person. Then you know what? And that happened the other day. I'm like, I will gladly take that, because what if I want to have a second drink and I don't want to spend $10 plus on my own beverages for that day? Great. I just got a freebie. I'm going to take that. No problem. I'll appreciate that very much.
Yes.
But if you're going to buy me a flower that's from, you know, I don't know, somewhere in Saskatchewan, I don't know, and you're going to be like, this is a Saskatchewan daffodil and it's one of the rarest flowers, that's great. I can appreciate the sentiment, but is it going to light my heart up and make me flutter at the end of the day? Hell no. I'm going to be like, why did you put all that effort into it?
It doesn't last, although a Starbucks drink doesn't last at all. It doesn't, but a Starbucks drink doesn't either. I was thinking more of your crystals, you know, like flowers, plants, those things.
Yeah.
They're fleeting in the moment. Mind you, see, I love those things because I need to bring myself back into the moment and just be appreciative of the moment.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So those things help me appreciate experience, being in the moment. So yeah, but I do see what you're saying as well. But touching back on the mental health and having children, because that was something that like my whole being just was like, yes, I know what you're talking about. Because
what's your thought on that?
Well, that's a huge deterrent for me to want to have children, is because I know how much I've struggled myself growing up with anxiety, even though it didn't really rear its really ugly head until I was maybe 18 or so. But my mom will tell you like how much of a worrisome child I was since a very young age. But there were definitely, and again, another episode we'll talk about maybe actual specific traumatic events that happened during childhood that definitely have, you know, a big part of this. But I do also know there's a bit of it that is a DNA thing. And I know that generationally, even though, yes, the Holocaust are our grandparents, also on my mom's side, there was a little bit of mental health stuff going on with like my grandmother and some other siblings of my mom and all those kinds of things. So with that being said, like, I know how much I struggled. It was hard. You know, like I was flat on my back. Like there was a few times in my life where I don't know if I'd even wish that upon my worst enemy, really. And so when I think about having a kid and there's a very high possibility that they will inherit some of that stuff, that scares the crap out of me. And also the fact that, you know, I'm just learning, even though, yes, I'm almost 38 in a few months here, I feel like I'm just learning how to take care of myself after all these years. So yeah, that's a really very real thing for those of you that are listening that do struggle with mental health challenges and have children. Actually, be really interesting to talk to somebody who has kids and they have struggled maybe with it prior to having kids, you know, and just how that goes about. But that's a huge fear of mine for sure. But then again, it's, you know, not just necessarily your generational or your DNA. It is a lot to do with environment too. So you can, and I know I could create a wonderful environment for a child. I have a lot of lessons I can impart, a lot of tools that I never had as a kid. I love my parents, but they didn't give me the tools to cope with anxiety. You know, I found those things myself, excuse me. And I know that I could impart that upon if I had a kid. So therefore, I think they'd have more of a leg up in that sense, right? Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting you say that too, because in contrast, I was basically brought out with anxiety the moment I was born. It wasn't something that I knew about when I hit my early adulthood. I knew the term and the understanding of it from as early as like 3 or 4 or 5 years old. Wow. So I was put into with the thing.
Blindsided for me. So that's interesting, actually.
Yeah. So I think one reason why, though I still struggle daily with sometimes I would call it crippling anymore, but definitely chronic, subtle or extreme anxiety. And for me, more social anxiety or transitionary or anticipatory anxiety, those are the 3 that stick out the most to me. Those types of things are, it's still always a work in progress, but I was able to learn, like I was on medications and stuff from as early as I think 3rd grade, maybe even a bit earlier than that, because that's what that's what my mother thought would be best for me. And that's totally fair. Right. And
that's where, like, okay, so you were how old in 3rd grade?
I would have been 8 or 9.
And so that's very interesting because I'm 10 years older than you. So I would have been 18. That's when, for me, maybe this is again, a slight generational thing. Whereas when I was 8, nobody talked about it as much. There was still a lot of stigma around mental health. Nobody knew.
Oh, wow.
Nobody talked about in school what the symptoms are of a panic attack or depression. Like, we didn't talk about it.
Really? Not at all?
Not at all. Until maybe around end of high school. So like, again, I was 18. And that's why all those symptoms for me, I literally thought I was dying because there was no education. So there's a bit, and then interestingly enough, and I know I'm taking away from the conversation from you.
No, that's fine.
But it is fascinating to me because, okay, 8, and then when I was 18, so literally almost within this is interesting, around the same time when you were 8, I was 18. That's when I started going on medication. And when that was introduced to me. Now medication, okay, now there's a huge controversy. Like, there's a lot of people believe in it, don't believe in it, holistic, not, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to get into that conversation.
No, we're not going to. No.
But it was just more a sort of parallel, but also the differences in decades and when things have become more accepted and more taught in schools. But anyway, wow, 8 years old, 3rd grade. Yeah.
And again, it's not, it's not a, what was I going to say? And it's not a criticism. It's not at all. It's more just an observation of what two people might have thought was best for the child that they were trying to help, and the perspectives on the information that they either had from their own experiences or from professional sources, medical sources, right? And I also grew up with grandparents on my mom's side who are in medicine. You know, my grandfather, who's still alive today, is a retired dermatologist. Is the word that I was looking for. Yeah, and
do you know what that is?
What? Sorry.
Say 222.
No, I don't
like,
know what the.
That's like a Jewish super. My Bobby used to do that all the time. Like it was a superstition. It's like, oh, God willing, or God, like, because you said, oh, and he's still alive, and it's like a like a knock on wood, like a knock on wood.
Yeah. Got it. So my grandfather is a retired dermatologist, and my late grandmother, who passed away in late 2000s, I think 2009, she passed away. She was did a lot of help with mental health and stuff, and she herself had a lot of issues as well, from Holocaust and then onset and everything as well. My point being for that anecdote, though, is the fact that growing up in a society where it was about the quick fix, and not to necessarily put a Band-Aid over something because you knew that the Band-Aid would prevent it from getting worse for a short period of time. But It was that idea, like, if you can take away the pain, take away the sensation, how can that make it feel better? Because if you think about it, if you've been through something like the Holocaust, you've been through other things that have been causing hardship, you naturally want to take away whatever is causing the suffering or causing the pain to occur. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best solution for the long term, but it could be something that could help you in the immediate moment, even if that short term could be several years, right? Until you realize maybe it's not effective. So when it comes to getting on in medication and trying different medications to figure out the chemistry in my brain, and thinking about, as a child, of course, I'm not really an independent thinker, but I can obviously at a certain age say, this is helpful, this is not helpful, I'm happy or I'm unhappy. And when it comes to children, and you think about children that might have these situations, let's say now, like in 2020, if kids were born in this generation, plus all the stress of the world that is really not fair to those kids to be brought into, I could only imagine the amount of health awareness, but also health challenges that would be inflicted upon those kids. And so I want to bring it back to the core of our discussion, which is having kids in this current lifetime, in this generation, and then bring it back to yourself of having these discussions with your husband about kids, because we can get off. So I'm going to bring it back.
But it all
links. It all links. Because but I want to take some of the things we just talked about and link it back to, again, on to yourself, Rachel, is if you were to have children right now, not saying necessarily it would be like right now because of COVID, but let's say in the next year and a half, if the pandemic...
Kids at all.
Or have kids at all, what are your thoughts in terms of how they might be raised? And I know that's a loaded question, I realize that, but just in terms of like the first thing, it's like, you know, what do you want? You're at Starbucks. Hey, welcome to Starbucks. What can I get you? And you're like, yep, I'm going to grab that. That kind of idea of like hardwired thought. Have you thought about how your kids would be, or how your kid might function, or how you would want it to be raised? It could be as general or as specific, anything, but just in terms of how you would think, if I had a child, I would love my child to be brought up in this environment or in this setting, or is how I would like to, how I want to support my child, perhaps. I think that's a great...
that's a really good question. And a very, you know, I've been so focused on whether it's a good idea to have them or not, that I haven't really focused necessarily on like, well, when you do have them, Rachel, if you do, what does that look like? It's been such a challenge to even make the decision of wanting them or not, that it's hard for me to envision. And maybe that almost gives me my answer, because if I can't really envision what that looks like, then maybe that's telling me that I shouldn't. Like, I really can't, like, it's really difficult for me to see that. You know, I think because, and I'm going to reach back a little bit to my own childhood, because I was so bullied in elementary school specifically, which therefore led to how I probably relate to and react to a lot of things, even as an adult. I don't have a lot of faith in the public school system necessarily. I don't know what it's like now, though. That's the thing. I'm relating only to what I can relate to back when I was a kid.
That's all we can do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that but also I would want my kid to, you know, interact with other children their age and have that real, you know, visceral social interaction. Although is that going to be a thing of the past? I don't know, because of COVID. Right?
Well, and I want to add on to that, sorry, because it's related to that. When you're saying like with friends and stuff, yeah. I have heard someone, and it's funny, I actually don't remember who was saying this to me, but someone was saying to me that their kids are back in school and that they have their learning groups and they weren't placed in school with any of their friends. So they're basically alone with people they don't know. And that's that's the pot of people they're with in their school year this year. And they're completely
that can be traumatic. That can be definitely traumatic for a kid when you don't have any familiarity at all.
No friends or anything.
And again, is that going to teach them to, you know, step out of their comfort zone and hopefully make new friends, because that's what life's about too, right? I mean,
yeah, no, that's a really good complimentary comment. Yeah.
But again, we won't know these things until years from now. So many things that are happening right now, it's all just like a big test, really.
And
we won't really know. I mean, you know, so when you ask me that question, I think that even pre-COVID, because of my experience of what it was like for me to go through the public school system,
right?
I would want to somehow homeschool my kids, which is funny because now parents some of them don't have the choice.
And they have to.
But I have a few friends that I know who pre-COVID started homeschooling their kids, and that's how they were going to do it. But what's interesting is they got together with other parents in the community that also homeschool their kids, and they have these collective like play dates, and they go on field trips together. So they still do have that connection with each other.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's so hard for me to answer that question because I don't have kids. I don't want to, and I know we're having a very real conversation. I don't want to ostracise parents that do have kids. It's hard for me to make comments on that, I guess. Yeah, it's a tough conversation because, like I said, I think I'm so stuck on that one question. Do I want them even?
Right. So, and that could be a changing answer every day, even if you were to look at the gut or the heart. It's one of those things that's a sliding scale. And then also, again, I want to respect the confidence and the privacy of your husband, but at the same time, you've said several times in this discussion already that the two of you are like right in the middle of either discussion or different things.
And he gave me permission that we could talk about this, by the way, guys.
He did. Yeah, even Rachel messaged me. He's like, I just had this discussion with my husband. We're going to talk about this. I'm like, great, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah. So are there any additional thoughts or comments that he has shared with you that are similar or different from what you've spoken from your own perspective that he'd be comfortable with you disclosing or no?
I think that he also feels the same pressures as me. We have almost the exact same opinion about all of this, like identical opinion.
That's kind of nice. So
yeah, it is. It's not a stressor. Hey, we do not agree on everything, believe me, but for some reason, and this can be a hot topic for a lot of couples, which causes separation and a lot of things that it'll go in not a very positive direction with the relationship. But yeah, no, we do think a lot on the same level. Now, what he's thinking, and it's more just an age thing now, both of us.
Okay.
Now that we're both like, he's a year older than me. He'll be 39 soon next year. I'll be 38. So it's more that is more of the pressure now. It's like, well, it's not even whether we want them or not. It's like, well, that we're getting older, it'll probably be harder and harder to leave if we do want them. So he's more feeling that pressure to make the decision. So ladies out there, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine. And those of you that really want kids and are struggling, my heart goes out to you. I am so sorry, because when you want something really that badly, and it's just like your body or his body or whomever's body is just not, it's not on the same page as what your heart wants. Like, I'm sorry. That's a horrible thing to go through. But time is always seems to be like an enemy.
Right.
Time. Well, yeah.
What I wonder is also, is there, of course you could say, is there a right time or a not so optimal time? And you could argue, well, but let's say the next 2 years might be not the best time to have a child. Yeah. However, I can also argue the fact that if you were to have a child right now, and let's just say hypothetically you were to conceive a child and you tell me next week, okay, we're having a kid, and in 9 months from now that's their due date.
Yeah.
I also argue the fact that
I'm glad you know that.
Thankfully, I do know how long it took for me to be conceived, everybody, because I think I've been conceived relatively well. Fucking crazy.
You're doing jazz fingers again.
Yeah, I don't know why. That just came unconsciously. But I'm here. Yeah. But I think that I would argue the fact that for mothers that were having children right now, and for yourself as well, this would be your norm. It's not as if you've had a child prior to COVID, and then you're having a second child, and then it's kind of like you have a contrast of what it would be like before or during the pandemic, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that makes me think about a couple of things. Is that I wonder about the parents that have had kids now, and the parents that have kids already, and or both. And the contrast, if they notice the difference with the pandemic being here and here to stay for at least another year and a half, I would say, until it's like fully softened.
Yeah. As
opposed to those that have kids already and then seeing the impact that it's had on them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, because I can argue the fact that, like, not to compare it because it's not the same. But for example, I just started working a job. We talked about this.
Yes.
I wasn't working in that job prior to the pandemic. So I don't know what it was like before.
Yep.
I only know what it's like now. So if that's my reality, then is it any different?
I almost think that's better.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think so too.
You won't, because you don't know any different. And sort of like a child, that's a very good point. So a child that's born now, or, somebody is pregnant, they will have a child within the next little bit, or a kid who's really young, and they won't remember the pandemic, right? Necessarily when they get a bit older. So that's very, very, very good. And just one more thing I was going to say is, when it comes to kids, we both, my husband and I, are on the same page where we've always thought, if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I know that's, again, like us being in the middle. But if it happens, we would embrace it. And if it doesn't happen, we would embrace that too.
So are you saying that as a hypothetical comment, or are you saying that that's where you are right now?
That's like, where I am.
That's where you are. Yeah,
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
But we're not, but it's not like we're, looking at my cycle and planning.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, here's my 48 or 70, here's my 48-hour ovulation window.
Exactly.
And let's, bam.
God, you know more than I give you credit for.
Well, first of all, thank you. But secondly, hold on, I was out of frame. But secondly, I also have a lot of close heterosexual female friends who were without kids prior, and that are now with at least one child. So I've learned a lot, and I got to give it up to one of my very close friends who's come into my life. Actually, we're coming up on our 1-year friend anniversary, but she has actually educated me so detailed on just like the cycle, like everything that, like, I had no idea what the hell toxic shock syndrome.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck, women?
Tampons now, Hiro, are the technology is better than what they used to be. Like that was much more of a thing. Anyway, and there's oh my god, conversation about women's bodies are fucking complicated.
Can we do an episode on that?
Fucking complicated.
Can we do an episode compared to the man's body? Because it'll be really fucking funny.
And we will get I would love to get, though, even an expert, maybe a doctor or something like that, in to chat about it, to actually talk about the real physical components without us. But anyway, it's actually I even said this to my husband. I want to say his name. One day I will, guys, girls, everybody, people, I will say his name. But we were talking yesterday. I don't know. I was PMSing and ladies, like, when you go off the pill, oh my gosh, some people have a great experience. Some people don't. I've been having, and that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I just said to him, God, you're so lucky to be a man. Like, sometimes, not to put a man on a pedestal, but geez, you have it easy.
No, I know I have. I know I have it.
Oh, wow.
Not in a sense of it being that.
And as women, as we get older, okay, we are getting into a completely different topic.
And to clarify that, I'm not saying that all men have it easy, but I'm just saying, as part of a biological constitution and what a so-called cisgendered male and a cisgendered female's body is. Yeah. We, gentlemen, gay, straight, whatever, we have it a lot easier internally in what our technical organ alignment is. And I'm not afraid to be very blunt in saying that. And I have all the respect to you, Rachel, and to all the women in my... No, I do. I have all the respect to the women in my life, because I cannot imagine. Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, for God's sake, I thought you were having a hot flash, okay? When you were clearly...
And now... Coffee makes me sweat. So anyway, okay. Well, yeah, reel it back in. See, this is what we do. And then we get super excited about a topic and we just can't contain ourselves and we talk a mile a minute.
But they're planting seeds for the future, so that's great. We just have to reel it into this discussion.
Yeah. Well, maybe we are planting actual seeds for the future. Yeah, and those that are listening, I'm doing a little hand mime of my index finger going into a hole of my other hand. Anyway, goodness gracious.
Into your 3D genitalia books.
Right.
4D, sorry, 4D.
4D, exactly. But to wrap it up here, my good friend.
Yes.
Rachel. Oh goodness! I just had another thought about, and I'm thinking about.
Do you want to share that thought?
Human body. Oh, I want to have a conversation, not this time around, about having a turtleneck. I'll see. Do you know what I mean? Or not?
Oh my God! Yes, we have to talk about that. I am so
turtleneck. So
ready. Turtleneck? I am so ready for that. You have no idea.
Turtleneck or no turtleneck?
Exactly.
Turtleneck or no turtleneck?
Turtle. Turtle,
no. Turtle. Yep. Oh my. And those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you can Google that.
Socks on the feet or no socks on the feet?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I am so down for that. Oh
because I had a very quick anyway, yes,
we're gonna get fruity. We're gonna get fruity.
Yeah, we will get fruity, friends. So just be excited about that episode, which might come at a later date. Will come at a later date.
Here's one thing I want to ask you on a lighter note, and you might not have an answer because people sometimes some parents want to see their child again. Whatever their child is assigned, whatever they want to be, they want to be. But just as far as the way that they would want to call them, what would you want to call your kids? Do you have names?
What do I want? Oh, that is something I will not divulge.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you for, it's funny, but I think that, okay, if we were on we're not having kids, then I would tell you. But because we still don't really know, we, believe it or not, because that's a fun thing to talk about. So we do have pretty definitive names of what we would call, and we don't want to let them go because, you know, what if someone sees us or hears us, oh, that's a great name, and then I have a good friend that has a kid and they're like, yeah, so this is my child's name, and then I might be like,
dun dun dun,
middle finger.
Yeah. So, no, that's totally understandable.
So, but what about yourself?
If I was to have a child and let's say they were male, if I was thinking in the idea of boy names, the name that I thought about was Dante.
Oh, that's sexy.
Yes. And the female name that I would love to have is Sakura.
Sakura?
Mm-hmm.
Not Sakura. So Sakura?
Yeah, Sakura.
No, Sakura. Yeah. Is that mean something, or what's the background?
Sakura is the Japanese word for cherry blossom.
Ah, of course. I was like, it sounds very familiar. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh God. And now I want to get in the conversation about freaking gender reveal parties.
Oh, and the fire. I know. I'm so pissed off about that.
What is that?
Ugh,
I'm hitting my head.
I know.
I don't get it. Okay, but that's okay. I think we both know our opinions on that topic.
We do. We totally do.
We don't even need to go into it.
No. No. It's so not 2020.
Nerp.
No. That belongs in the 2000s. Sorry, people.
I know. And again, I'm sure we're I don't know.
Tangenting.
We're pissing off somebody by giving that.
Whatever. We've already pissed off.
That's why I have a podcast.
We would have pissed off people by now anyways. And you know what? We can't please everybody. I'd rather us have a really awesome 10% loyal following than 90% that doesn't have any idea what we're actually talking about.
True. Right. Speaking of which, Google turtleneck.
Yes.
But not the clothing. Yeah.
This is true. On that note, we really love the fact that you are your support. Again, we're on all streaming sites. Rachel has done such a great job in getting us out to the interwebs and community because I'm super illiterate in any of that. So I'm glad that we have Rach to do that. Apple, Google podcasts. We have Spotify and YouTube where you can see our lovely mugs on your screen, your phone, anywhere.
We will have our mugs on mugs one day.
Yes, and you can blow it up on your big screen TV like I did on my mother's yesterday. If you haven't seen our latest Instagram post, you can see that as well. But yeah, just check in with us. And if you have questions, direct message us, email us, gettingjuicy@gmail.com. Reach out, say hello. If you want to be on the show, just hello.
Totally. And just to know, for now, our landing page, our website is our Instagram. So our handle is at getting_juicy, so JEWCY. Mm-hmm. And on that handle, there is a link in our bio that will take you to all the ways to listen and watch. So you don't have to remember anything Hiiro said. No, just kidding.
You go, Rachel. You simplify the fuck out of this podcast.
Just go, and it will give you all that information. So
exactly.
We are so excited and stoked. We can't wait to bring you more episodes. We have a plethora of amazing guests that are coming up in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. So love y'all. I don't know why I keep saying that like I'm from Texas. Like,
love y'all, Paula D here.
Yeah, love y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we still love our neighbors to the south, even though there's so much fucked up shit going on down there.
There is.
We still love you, and we
love you.
Okay,
we love everyone. So yes,
can't wait to go back down to California, New York, many other juicy states eventually.
Yes, absolutely, it'll be great.
Mwah.
Have an awesome day, everybody. Rachel, we love you. L'chaim. Good Shabbos. It's Thursday. I don't care. Let's have a good party into the
Bye.
weekend. Happy October as well, and Thanksgiving, everybody.
Ciao.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.